tell you something.
I don't want some more for the money.
Let me tell Bounty Killer and Vybz Kartel and friend them say, a pay a gunshot of fire. Me I tell you a pay a gunshot of fire. Mr. Leg, me no peace. No peace, a gunshot and a boy. Come on, you prepare yourselves, calm down. Calm down.
Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. Since 1984, the Sting Reggae Festival has been the premier dancehall event, an annual spectacle that features lyrical battles between DJs who can be described as the very best of the best. It has hosted some of the greatest clashes on record, like the Ninjaman vs Supercat face-off in 1991 and the year 2000 upsets that saw underdog Merciless take on and defeat the three reigning kings of dancehall. But one of the most potentially classic but ultimately infamous nights in the history of that festival occurred on the night that two icons broke the biggest rule of Sting. Lyrical battles are a sport, but that day the line between stage performance and real-life conflicts blurred and eventually shattered when the Don Gorgon Ninjaman and Vybz Kartel contests descended into an onstage fistfight. It became one of the most shocking public events ever seen in Jamaica, and one with the potential to spark a bloody ghetto gang war between supporters of both men in a massive dancehall fan base already divided into two camps before that clash. Violence in Jamaican streets has been a problem for a long time, but that incident would have sparked something on a level that no one had ever seen before. Let's take a look at the shocking Vybz Kartel and Ninjaman brawl and how it almost set Jamaica on fire. Now, to begin with, the incident on Boxing Day 2003, no pun intended, was not an isolated flare-up, but the fruits of an almost two-decade feud between two of the biggest dancehall camps or fan bases, with one half led by Beanie Man and the other by Bounty Killer, two firebrands that came into their own in the digital age of dancehall. Both men's rivalry was epic and officially took off when both men clashed for the first time in 1993 at a Stone Love Sound System event and a fiery head-to-head at Sting not long after. The rivalry effectively divided the Jamaican fanbase into two camps and was the defining feud of the decade. To consolidate his influence in the streets, Bounty Killer created a musical cartel called The Alliance, a collective and eventual record label that had in its fold DJs, selectors, and of course, hardmen from Kingston streets. And by the year 2000, the Alliance had signed the likes of Mavando, Idonia, and a guy called Adi Banton that soon took the name of Vybz Kartel. The Alliance was a very aggressive group and had a strategy to monopolize producers, their rhythms, and hottest venues in the dancehall space. And this soon sparked plenty of criticism from the industry, including Bounty Killer's former mentor in Ninjaman. By 2003, his criticism of the Alliance had gone into overdrive, and he challenged Bounty Killer and his whole crew to a showdown in the Sting Festival coming up in a few months. The first person to take the challenge was Vybz Kartel, at the time the fastest rising member of the Alliance, who was known for his super lyrical ability and aggressive style, someone that could be a strong match for the Don Gorgon, a deadly veteran who had been putting DJs to his lyrical sword for almost 2 decades before then. An OG if there ever was one, with deep-rooted ties to Kingston's tough downtown garrison communities of the 70s and 80s. The stage was set for what was effectively a straight battle between a musical granddad in Ninjaman and his grandson in Vybz Kartel. The island and the entire reggae world was buzzing with excitement in the run-up to what was the 20th edition of Sting, that was billed the greatest one-night show on earth and was built to take place at the Jam World Entertainment Center in Portmore, St. Catherine's Parish in Jamaica, a city that was incidentally Vybz Kartel's hometown. So in the early hours of December 27, the 20,000 strong crowd was simply at fever pitch when the clash of the year would kick off, with Vybz Kartel and his Alliance entourage storming the stage with fiery lyrics that signaled war on some of his gangster tunes like Gun Clown and Bust Me Gun Like Nothing. The then 27-year-old would taunt Ninjaman over his criminal record and drug use. Ninjaman soon took to the stage to respond, wearing a graduation gown and cap, presumably to indicate he was in a class of his own. In his usual style, he launched into a withering and hilarious barrage of lyrical arrows at his opponents, devastating on a normal day. But with Portmore being the hometown of Vybz Kartel, the audience booed and began to throw bottles at Ninjaman. As the back and forth would heat up, Kartel and his crew came back to respond, and that is where it got ugly. As both men traded shots face to face, Ninjaman, as he'd always done in clashes, would nudge, or some say pushed Vybz Kartel in the chest. If you're familiar with Ninjaman's performances at sound clashes, it's not unusual for him to tap or nudge his opponents while dissing them, but that night, it produced an entirely different reaction. Kartel responded by shoving him harder. Ninjaman would push back also, and in a split second, a full-blown brawl was underway as Kartel and his crew knocked Ninjaman to the ground and stomped on him before security broke it up and dragged everyone off the stage. The biggest rule of Sting had been broken with the first act of onstage violence since its inception in 1984. The entire venue was in chaos, but things calmed down when Beenie Man came on stage to douse the tension with his wonderful performance. But when it was announced that Bounty Killer, that evening's headliner act, wouldn't make it to the show, the massive crowd got furious and hurled thousands of stones and bottles everywhere, damaging equipment and hurting people. The show security team had to fire shots in the air to pacify the crowd, and when it was all over, more than 20 people were hospitalized. Meanwhile, over in the ghettos in Kingston, hit squads began to mobilize to retaliate against the disrespect of the legend Ninjaman, with newcomer Vybz Kartel and the entire Alliance crew the target. Recognizing the terrible fallout that was brewing, former cop and Sting founder Isaiah Lang swung into action to douse all the tension with an emergency peace committee that would meet by the next morning and had both Ninjaman and Vybz Kartel in attendance. This first meeting would fail as Ninjaman appeared with big plasters on his face and refused to shake Vybz Kartel's hand. It's since been said that snubbing a handshake was a signal to his downtown supporters to go ahead with a hit on the Alliance. It would take the committee of the Sting promoters, police commanders, and senior OGs from Portmore and Kingston to force both men to a truce. They got them to attend a press conference 4 days later in which Kartel apologized for the whole thing, and both men confirming that the whole beef was over. To press home how serious the matter had been and to make an example for the future, the police flying squad arrested both men immediately. Ninjaman was released the same day after making his $15,000 bail, while Kartel and his entourage spent that night behind bars in connection with an earlier offense. The matter seemed to be settled and no lives were lost. However, the whole mess left such a scandal that the Sting Festival wouldn't hold for 5 whole years. And though Ninjaman had forgiven Kartel, the industry and the streets still bore a heavy grudge against him. He was practically blacklisted and reportedly banned from neighborhoods in downtown Kingston. It would take Bounty Killer's old nemesis in Beenie Man to intervene and change his fortunes, as he would take Vybz Kartel under his wing, carry him in his own car to shows, and pass him the microphone to perform. He also brought him to feature on his hit single, Breast Specialist, in 2004. Eventually, Kartel would bounce back and became one of dancehall's biggest artists of the 2000s. However, Kartel's bromance with Beenie Man brought a rift and beef with his old mentor, Bounty Killer. But that is a story for another day. Well, that infamous clash and brawl between these two heavyweights is remembered as one of the lowest points in dancehall history. But thank goodness that both men embraced peace, and what would have been among the most destructive rivalries was averted forever. So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.